because I came from Corsos. Like, why would I even be saying that? Um, and I remember Joe. He was working a dog, and I was like, bro, why is Sharon even keeping this dog? Like, and it was her search and rescue dog, so obviously that was more important than Frenching or whatever. But I remember that he just kept working, kept working, kept working, and then all of a sudden, it was like doing really advanced work. And it was, and now I see like Mark with this boxer. You guys will probably see him later, and yeah, like at 2, I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, I'm having a hard time with this dog, and I kind of feel for him because he works so hard at it, and the dog just doesn't look like he has it, and then dog hits like 3, and then all of a sudden it's like a different dog, and we just kept working. Like he just did not let off the gas. Like he just got back from Spain, and he had a good time over there training, and I'm just like, yeah, like that's what it's about, at the end. And I know that when he titles that dog, it's gonna taste a lot better than if he would have just had like a dog that he just was really easy to work.
Hey, it's nice when they're really easy to work, but if you really love your breed and you want to do something special with that breed, it tastes so much sweeter when you do find that success. One other short little story, because I got a ton of them, so I won't bore you to death with them. But I had taken a dog to a trial up in Northern California. I failed my ring one. And afterwards, the judge was also a decoy, so we were training all of the dogs afterwards. And I remember him saying to me at the end of the day, not to me, to the people around, this dog is not difficult to fix. This dog is impossible to fix. And I looked at him like, well, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And then I was determined to prove him wrong. And I spent a lot of money going to as many seminars and training sessions and workshops, and I had everybody working this dog, trying all sorts of different things. And then, several years down the road, I see Mr. Camerano again, and I say, I got to tell you something. And so I'm sharing with him what he said to me and how it made me feel. And I said, I apologize for cussing you, because you were right. You were right. Sometimes we don't want to. I mean, like what Oscar's saying, just keep at it, keep training, keep working. But there does come a point where it is what it is. And you have to have realistic expectations. And I think the more experienced you are, especially if you've titled a few dogs and then maybe you've washed a few dogs, you've worked with many, many dogs, you start recognizing certain behaviors. I had one dog in particular, so say Shane and Oscar are suited up, and Shane does the face attack with the dog, and it's good. And then in our trial, you switch the decoys, and then Oscar sets up for the defensive handler. My dog's like, no, where's Shane at? Like, whatever suit he bit first was the one he wanted. Whatever toy, they could be identical in color, but whatever toy he bit first, he wouldn't switch. He wouldn't go to the other one. And I'm like, well, I got to fix that. That is not a fixable thing.
I mean, what if you would have worked on it like how Francis said from early on, switching off and everything?
Maybe.
Maybe
if I had known better.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, that's just how it is sometimes. Sometimes we make mistakes and then we move forward, and to fix those or like to go back is just almost impossible.
So these are like the little things too. When Oscar says, the decoys on the field or whatever the distraction is, says get him to play with him. Like even with my current dog, you got to get her to bite. She didn't want to bite. He says, at least she's got to put her mouth on it. Even if it was just for a minute, that was a start. And we just built from there. And now she'll play with it.
I mean, that's just, it's hard. And some people are like, no, my dog won't take a toy in front of a decoy. No, my dog has to take a toy in front of a decoy.
Yeah, but as a new handler going in, my dog's not going to play with a toy. He wants the bad
You're
guy.
almost like proud of it.
Yeah, hell yeah, you are. I was.
Yeah, no, I don't, I learned it early from Adrian. It was like, and it would be on a back tie, and even if the dog just put his mouth on it, and then pretty soon the dogs are like grabbing it, shaking it, and like. Okay,
well, here's another story talking about back in those days. So like the first pit bull that I did French ring with, he had a very good bite. He was slow to bite. He was slow to out. He was slow going down there. But when he bit, you felt it. And coming back, I couldn't get him back for a toy. I couldn't get him back for a toy. So we used the electric. That got him back. It got him up to level 2 that way. But I never gave up offering him. It's just like when you're working for food and you're like, my dog won't take the food. I'm still going to offer it. If he doesn't want it, that's his choice. It's okay. So I just kept offering and kept offering. Like the dog's like 4 years old and finally bit the toy with me coming back. And when he did, then the next time I sent him, he's like, well, give me the toy. You know, that's where his head was. But it took a long, long time to get him to do it.
And the breed, I mean, the breed matters, you know? Like there's a lot of dogs that are able to switch like that. And there's dogs that once they're stuck, and it's harder, you know? Like, you know, like Leela, the Royals pit, like it's like a balance you have to keep, you know? Because sometimes like we were prepping for a trial and then almost like we were working on the outs. And then all of a sudden she knows the timing of the out because we were consistently, without even realizing it, outing her at the same time. Yeah. You know, so now in trial, she like counts the seconds.
Yeah, time
goes
to go.
back. And it wasn't like she was afraid of the decoy. She just went back trying to be right. And then if you're the opposite, like, oh, we're not going to be too hard on her. We're just going to work. Then she doesn't want to out.
Yep.
So it's like, it's always like a balance that you have to try to,
Definitely. And the other thing too is like, so I was up in Northern California with Dosta and my dog I hope to take to ring 3. And she has only been on the legs. And I asked Fernando, at what point do you put the dogs on the arm? What point? Because when you get to level 2 and 3, they need to bite anywhere. He says, how old is she? And I said, she's getting close to 2. And he goes, oh, it's time. Like she's right at that point. The other fellow I was training with, he says, once she's a solid ring 1, meaning she had both legs, then we will show her the arms. And Dosta, oh God, I shouldn't be saying names, but he said, it has nothing to do with level 1 or level 2, kind of like you with, have you taught the dog to out? When the dog's biting the legs good, then we show him. We don't work them on the arms all the time, but we show them because, why do you think? Why do you think once the dog's biting good low, why do you think you show them high or arms?
Early prep?
Because they can get stuck here. And I had a dog that did that, Capone again, that poor dog. He was on the legs for so long, and when I was going up to level 2, we'd try to barrage him or put the arms out in front, and he'd just push through to try to get to the leg. If you do something too long, and it's just the same thing with your obedience too, like if you're luring too long like this, it's really hard to get off of that. You need to recognize. So I said to, where are you? Pete and Paul. Like, your dog's luring really good. Get that hand. You got to start fading that now. Otherwise, he's going to expect that forever.
Yeah, and as soon as you don't have that, you don't have the dog anymore. It's like, you know, what he knew is gone.
Make him a believer that even though it's not right there, guess what? It's going to come back.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it with Gally even with, yesterday, I told Josue, pay him on the other side because he was getting stuck on one side. It's right there, and it's the same suit, but he's just not.
Different side,
He's just not seeing it, you know?
Yeah.
And so we had to staple the dog on there. So it's definitely important, and it's important in both, like you said, bite work and obedience. Like we have to make sure we switch up right away from whatever we're doing. I always tell even for pet dogs, if you're having 2 sessions of doing the same exact thing, you're not growing anymore. You're literally doing the same thing. Yeah, he's doing it. Once I see my dog does it 3 times and he knows it, I'm gonna change. It could be the way I'm standing, instead of facing him here and the place is here. Now I'm going to stand back there and send him to the place. Like little things, but you have to start changing things from what you normally would do every single day.
That's a good point too. So if your sessions at home are too good, like all the time, because sometimes we were talking about that the other day, like when we train by ourselves, it feels so good and the dog's really with us. Is it really training? Because I can be working my dog at home for 2 weeks and say, hey, Oscar, I want to show you something. And I get out here. And then he says, all right, well, what about this? And then all of a sudden, it doesn't look so good anymore. But that's exactly what I needed. Because, yeah, that piece was good. Let's move on. Let's challenge him a little bit more. I mean, so it's important to have in your mind what your goal is. Maybe not for the dog's entire lifetime, but for that day and for that session. Okay, my dog's retrieving good. My dog's going out and picking it up good. Now let's do a little bit of front work. And the front work doesn't have to be with the dog going out there. It, like Oscar did the other day too, just right in front, just right in front. I know the dog will run out there, but my fronts are a little bit chewy perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. So and sometimes you do the opposite. You do too much, and you fuck it up.
Guilty.
And you know, instead of, like yesterday, with my retrieve at the end, I should have, like, I'm not there yet, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna test it out and see what's up. I know I can go back and fix it. I know that session is not gonna be, you know, detrimental if that's not where it's gonna end up. But sometimes you could, you know, also throw too much. So you have to just know the balance of, like.
It's really good to see the top trainers like yourself have those situations, because for the rest of us, we're like, oh, good, okay, so it's not always perfect for him either.
Yeah, no, it really
It's
it is perfect most of the time.
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing. But no, I think, you know, but definitely those are the things. But like I said, even with your own dogs, change it up. You guys, like, film your sessions and be like, shit, this looks like my exact same session that I had yesterday. How can I move forward from here? Now, it's good to get repetitions and get, like, a lot of repetitions to where it looks good. But right away, like, once you see that the dog is, like, anticipating, he's showing me, like, I'm going to move. With that Pressa, I've had him for, you know, about to be 2 weeks. And I see, okay, he's holding the you know, with the lure, he's, like, keeping his head up, or me paying him with food up here. I went to the ball right away. I was like, if he likes to play with the ball, away from the food, I play with the ball and make him crazy for that without showing him the heel position. I want to make sure that he loves the ball. Mm-hmm. And then, instead of using the food, I was like, all right, now I'm going to use the ball. And I'm going to pay it. I'm going to break it down. I'm not going to be walking forward. It's just the basic position. But then, like, I start moving, like, really, like, fast, you know?
Yeah, you touch base on videotaping. How many of you, show of hands, videotape your sessions?
Stop lying, bro.
You
Stop lying,
do.
bro.
And I like what Oscar said. So, like, if the session looks good, when you review it, if the session looks good, now you have to think, what can I do next time to build upon what I already have? It can be as simple as setting a ball in the middle of the field, or having your kids out there playing, or maybe a loud radio on, or you go to pick up the kids from school and you get the dog out and you work them a little bit. And it doesn't have to be much. Just let them see that picture or expose them just a tad. And video is your best friend.
Yeah.
Your best friend.
I got a question there. Are you guys in the, how do you feel about always ending the session on a good note, or if it's a shit session, you just put the dog up?
Well, sometimes for me, when it starts going downfield, I'm like, I better put her up before I destroy it completely. I've done that.
So you won't always end on it?
I try to, but if I can see it's not going there, I'm like, okay, I just need to cool down, take a break, and then I'll go out maybe 30 minutes later and try again.
I usually end it whenever I feel like I'm getting, like, frustrated, because then I know I'm going to just make it worse. And so I just, but yeah, I don't really think about it too much. I know, like, even, like, going back to even Fernando, I forgot where I worked with him once in Santa Clarita, and we were working together, and something wasn't going right with one of the dogs, and he's like, all right, let's move on to the next thing. Like, let's just go on to the next exercise. So if you're having issues with, like, a defensive handler, and, like, the dog's just messing up, he's like, and I would think, like, nah, we're going to fix this, like, right now, you know? And he's like, nah, we're just going to move forward.
And why did he say that? Why? Why did he say that?
I think he meant, like, you know, you're just going to make this shit worse right now.
You're going to make the hole bigger.
Yeah, the whole thing.
So move on to something else. And then when the dog's away, we can discuss maybe what we could do different.
Yeah, so I would say, like, if you're doing something and it's just not going well, like, put your dog on a down. I usually reset and I go, all right, how can I dumb this down a little bit more to make it easier on him, to make it easier on me, to make me feel a little bit better? Because for me, it's for me at the end of the day. Like, I want to feel good about where I ended, because I hate being hard on my dog and putting him up frustrated. Like, I hate my sessions. I literally feel like freaking stress, you know?
Do you always put your dog in a crate or a kennel after your sessions? No. Or is it sometimes like, hey, we're cool?
I just let them be, yeah.
So I've heard it said that, especially if you have a good session, or if you're drilling, or I think what you call a loop, like over and over, if you put the dog into the cage or into the box, and let them sit for a little bit, that they absorb what they just did. And I've also heard it said, what you do today in training, you'll see tomorrow. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was inside the dog's brain to really.
Right?
You follow, there's a lady on Instagram, her name is K9 Decoded, and she's like a science, she works with my dogs all the time.
Oh, okay.
A scientist that is involved in the dog work. And she said that, she was saying that with the dog, I don't know how they run their studies, right?
Yeah.
They ran their studies somehow, and she was saying that when you take a pause after each rep, that the dog absorbs the information a little bit better.
I could see that though, because like even when like I said yesterday, when I'm working my dog and then I put him on a down to get on my phone, like I know he's like looking, and then I can go back to the same thing. I do feel like, you know, I feel like the worst thing that you can do is when you get frustrated and you keep trying and trying and trying and trying,
Yeah.
and then you just fuck it up.
Yep,
It's
yep.
better like, but even like after my corrections, I try to like pause, even if it's for 10 seconds. But once I correct them, like everything stops for 10 seconds. We reset, and then we go. We try
You
to go
get some
again.
really good lockup with your dog, and what I mean by lockup is like the dog just goes. That to me is super cool, especially when you can capture it in the work and in between the exercises.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it's happening, because of your pause.
Yeah, I definitely like that's something that I started doing with I think it was Rogan, and I definitely encourage everybody to do that. Like your sessions, like your dog, Royal, he needs that. Like he needs to like just settle. Like he doesn't have no chill in him.
He's got.
Yeah, and it's great. So if you need that, then like do one rep of something, and then just let him settle again. Like put him back in there. Like have your sessions. Like a lot of the time we do our sessions where like we try to get a whole session in 5 minutes, 6 minutes or whatever. And it's like, those are the worst. If you have like 30 minutes that you can spare, like work them for 2 minutes, put them up, or like lay them down. And then, you know, do whatever, and then bring them back out. Come on, let's do something else. Let's work on positions. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, set them up. And like those sessions to me are way better than when I do like a 6 minute like session. Like, cause when I come here and we have a bunch of people like that, you know, in the club that we're working, and I feel like I have to rush, those are like my least favorite sessions.
yeah,
My
for
favorite
sure.
sessions are my 30-minute sessions that I only work for 5 minutes, but I'm there for 30 minutes.
Yep,
Those
yep.
are, to me, the better sessions.
And that's, I mean, what he's suggesting, you can't do it at a seminar, right? I mean, there's just not enough time in the day. But what I see with Royal, I think he's an incredible dog. I mean, such good stuff there, and he's
smart.
absolutely gorgeous. And his bark is so, ugh, I love him. But like all of that buildup, like that engagement, the activation he gives you, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's too much, because it's already there in him. Like he already gives you that in the work. You don't need to bring him up here before you start. In fact, that's what you worked on yesterday, just having him on the place and then calling him in. I think that's a better way for his mindset. That's what I saw anyway.
Yeah, I would get rid of that cue. Like, and normally I wouldn't. I would say your dog has to have a cue to get started to work, but it changes between dogs.
Every dog, and your dog's already there, yeah.
But you're having similar issues to like what we all have when we're newer to this, because we want that intensity. We want that. I talked to Shane when he got his dog, Slim. I was like, bro, this dog is crazy. I was like, chill out. And what was the first thing you said? You were like, nah, bro, I kind of want him to be like. And I'm like, all right, well, it's already it's there. It's in the DNA already. And I think that now, like, I guarantee you, your next dog, if you start seeing that early, you're gonna be like, oh no, I'm gonna chill out a
You're
little
going to
bit over here."
recognize it quicker.
I made it because the I was working with, he was like, well, when you go trial, you have to have like an activation.
Yeah, but that's not completely man-made. That's genetics also.
Yeah, it is.
It's through and it is a little bit man-made through frustration. Like there's a lot of frustration there, like through a little bit of conflict. Like he doesn't know what's gonna get him to that ball, and it's just building, and that's what's creating that little monster that he is. You know, when he comes out. But now that you know that, you see it, you gotta even if it takes 6 months, even if it takes 6 months of you not doing, you know, what you would normally do. Maybe those 6 months, all you're gonna do is bring him out, toss a piece of food, put him on his bed. Forget the ball. He doesn't need the ball. and then you're gonna work. I guarantee you, you're gonna see the mind shift completely on that dog. Rather than he sees that thing, you make him bark. You're gonna put the first saber. You're gonna blow his head off. He can't think. When he's over aroused, he's not gonna be able to think. So when you can't think, you can't teach.
So let's talk a little bit about the mindset of the dog when they're being rewarded with food versus toy versus praise. And all of that is going to adjust to the individual dog. So if your dog is super high and finds satisfaction with your touch, like what Dosta had me start doing with my dog is because he says, Leri, you're quick to correct her if she makes a mistake. He goes, but then you don't give her the feedback that it's good. Now I might say, good, but that's not enough for her. Touch her. Because when I touch her, her tail just goes, oh, thanks, Mom. You know, I feel better. And if I'm using food for certain, and it depends on the exercise. If I want the dog to think, like for my hurdle, I need the dog excited enough to go, because I'm not throwing the ball. She knows, like, once she gets to the other side. When I was rewarding with the toy, she jumped and yeah, and I threw the toy. In the very beginning, I did that. Well, then she just started crashing the jump because I want to get that toy. I don't care what I have to do. I know I need to go straight, and I will go straight through that hurdle.
They can't think.
They can't think. So recognize what your dog is showing you. And if the food generally, I think, is best for beginning obedience anyway, and some of the older dogs too, if they're too high, because it's something you can reward them in the position that they're in. A toy, you generally are throwing it or you're tugging it, so you're moving them out of the position to give them the reward. Where the food, you can mark exactly where you want it, and you can just keep feeding there or feeding there, whatever. But think about how your dog feels when they're getting the reward and which reward brings these certain emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when she's talking about with dogs like Z, as soon as she sees the ball, that's all she's thinking. So at that point, she's not thinking task to get the ball. She's thinking ball at whatever cost. And so they don't think about not touching the jump, which in French ring, if you touch the jump or if you hit the bars and they fall off, you're losing your points. So you have to go back and be like, all right, maybe here I'm going to use food. And maybe here I'm going to just dumb it down a little bit. Like I'm going to put a touchpad and a touchpad, and just you teaching the dog how to go from one touchpad to the other touchpad, pay with food, and little by little, I increase the height of it. And then, and with some dogs, like my Corso, it was more like throw the ball, amp him
Come on,
up,
boy, come on, come on, come
boom,
on.
so he can get over it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different. So you're going to have to be able to shift within dogs,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? No?
Any questions about those of
Or
you
anything
who
else?
worked yesterday and were maybe not perfectly clear or wanted to do something a little different that we could discuss? Like, so Pete and Paul, Pete. I was like super stoked because the last time I seen you was at the Hunt Down thing, and it looks like a different dog. It's really cool.
It looks good, man. You're doing good.
And I think, what's your big guy's name? Odin? I think Odin needs more obedience, right? Like he likes to bite. I love his attitude. I keep pointing out all the off-breeds, sorry. Grizz, like, wow.
Yeah.
Super impressed with what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's different than last time for sure.
I got another question. You were talking about earlier trying your dog out in bite work. What are some qualities that you look for that determine the dog is not a good fit for doing any type of protection or bite work?
No interest?
Yeah,
Or avoidance?
not just. I think avoidance, like when you see that they're just like kind of stressed and not really wanting to be there. I think that's like for my sign. Like, you know what, it's stressing him out instead of like why he's not enjoying this. And some people, because we want to feed our ego a little bit and feed our Instagram feed, we want the dog to do it, and we force the dogs to do it. And I think that's detrimental to some dogs' mentality.
So for me, did you raise your hand?
No,
Oh, Okay, I was going to say, hold that thought, please. For me, if somebody comes out and they're like, hey, I'm interested, because I'm not a decoy, I've never claimed to be one, but if it's a young dog or small enough dog, I'll flirt it a little bit to see what it's got. And like if the dog comes out like all open and happy, and then I just have them post up a little bit, and you know, I'm at a distance, I'm doing a little bit of this. Like if the dog shows interest, even if the dog doesn't connect, but it shows interest, that's a good sign to me. If the dog's all happy and I make a little move and they're like, oh, that is something that is going to need a lot more work, obviously. I have gone on evaluations of pet dogs, and the people come walking up with the dog, you met her, come walking up with the dog, and then I see the dog at the distance, and the dog is pulling them like this, looking me straight in the eye, and tries to bite me. You know, so I mean, there's a variety of things you're going to see. And if I see your traditional working breed, so like Chris, is it Chris? Yeah. You said, I wouldn't mind seeing what my dog's got. Now, I'm suspecting, I'd bet money that your dog's going to have some interest today. If I see a traditional working breed not wanting to work or showing those other signs, I might be like, this isn't the best candidate. If I see an off-breed or even the cattle dog, if I see them a little unsure but still some interest, I'm like, let's keep going. Let's see what we got. You know, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
And to touch on that, like I'm going to give a quick example. Like Isabel, she's one of our trainers, and she has a dog that Ariel dumped on her that's like a husky. Well, I don't even know what this thing is, right? But she was super scared of everything. I mean, her own shadow and everything. So she started doing like bite work and stuff with this dog, and all of a sudden, like it's coming out. Can this dog get titled? I highly doubt this dog will ever get titled, because she, like, as soon as, you know, there's anything foreign to her, she's like, I'm out of here, right? But the dog's attitude has changed completely, and it's become a way better dog now doing bite work. And we just do, like, even if I give her back, you know, bites where she's like biting back here, not a lot of pressure, but she's like enjoying it, and like we let her win. And, you know, and now she does other stuff with like Chris Otello, and I see the dog and I'm like, that's cool. Like, you don't have to title your dog.
I think she can get titled, because there are sports where all they have to do is bark. They don't have to bite.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I'm talking about like
a real
like a title, you know, I'm talking about like not like a A-cow or like a things like that. I'm talking about like a title.
But the A-cow's still a title.
Yeah, all right, you know what I'm talking about. So what I'm saying, she could play whatever. Yeah, but I'm saying like Canine Street League, PSA, IGP, or whatever. Like, it's gonna be tough for that dog, but it doesn't matter. Like, the dog enjoys it, she enjoys it, and it doesn't have to be like, you know, this amazing dog. So I think as long as you see benefits, and you see, like, even her older dog, the dog was like super dog reactive, and I was like, well, let's put it for some bite work next to other dogs. And let him, you know, he has this frustration. In the beginning, he would direct at other dogs. And all of a sudden, like, I would feed him a bite, and he'd bite a little bit because he's frustrated at the other dog. And then he's just directing it at me. So now he's getting used to working alongside other dogs, and he's not showing the same aggression towards other dogs because he's showing it to me as the helper. And so little things like that could help your dog, you know, even if he's not going to get.
You know, using the other dogs as an example, I used to kind of use that as a gauge for my young pit bulldogs when we would do puppy circle. Everybody knows what puppy circle is. Bring all puppies in, and there's usually 1 or 2 decoys in the middle, flirting them. All nice, fun, clean stuff. If I had a pit bull puppy that was more interested in the other dogs than they were the flirt, I'm like, that's probably not the one for me.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't want to me, there is no room for a dog that wants to fight other dogs in dog sports. Because I don't want my dog, that's part of the reason I do French ring. We all know that there's no other dog on the field at the same time, unlike IGP.
Yeah, in obedience.
Now, granted, you still have to do your temperament test before you get to that point. You do have to pass another dog, but depending on the judge, it could be a great distance away. And they'll usually try and find a neutral dog. But I saw in the IGP regional 2 years ago, and I knew it was happening. I said it to Nellie. I said, that dog's going to break and go after him. And she looked at me. She said, you're right. Hey, I don't want my dog. if your dog, not yours, but if your dog breaks and goes after my dog, I'm not worried about it. My dog's should be all right. But if my dog breaks and goes after one of yours, that's a problem, and I need to get out of dog sports altogether, and probably dog training. That's just my feelings on it. I don't want any dog fights.
Well, if you're a dog trainer, and most of the times you would know if your dog has something like that, and you're gonna have to make sure, you're on it. But the most of the time that I've seen dogs go after other dogs are non-dog trainers, like people that don't know, like people that are just like because it's hard, right? Like Chris has his first shepherd. He doesn't. Yeah, she might not show any aggression, whatever, but like you just don't see certain things. And I see it. I mean, even with the new trainers, like I see, like with Josue, he's new, he's super motivated and everything. But there's little things that I see that I'm like, hey, this could have happened right here had this other thing happened. I'll give you, and this goes away from like dog training, just more so like being aware. Somebody dropped off a board and train at the Carson field, right? One of my trainers had him. She's walking him, and everything's like it's good. Like the dog's super cool. The owners are over there. They're packing up. They're about to leave. They leave. What does the dog do? He looks at him. What's the first thing he does? Freaks out. What is he wearing? A harness. Does this harness fit him? No. He backs out, comes out of the harness. Where does he start running first? Where did the car go?
To the street.
Right? Luckily, the dog, she was able to like call him, and we got the dog back. That right there could have ended up in that dog getting hit by a car, dead, and then everything falling back on the company or elevated the trainer. The trainer would have felt horrible about it. So those are like little things that we don't think about sometimes that are going to be a huge deal. And they have like those are things that happen. You know what I'm saying? And so, so what I'm getting to when I say dog trainer and like your first dog, like there are things that you just don't see because
you don't know until you know.
Yeah, like you don't expect those things to happen. So it's not because like we're trying to talk shit like, oh, you don't know dogs. It's just no, you just haven't seen a lot of these things happen. Just so I could end, as soon as that happened, I said, every time the owner hands you a dog, the first thing you're supposed to do, put a slip leash on him. That's it, right? And that has to be like a protocol for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure.
Explain how you got the dog back, because I think that's important too.
Shit. I know I stopped what I was doing and I freaking.
What happened is that the trainer ran after the dog.
Yeah.
And Oscar was like, don't run after him. Go to the gate and go close.
I was like, go straight to the gate and close the gate, just because I know that if she ran towards him, he's gonna feel like, I don't know you, bitch. I'm gone. That's just the first thing that dogs do. So but it was for me. I was pissed because I'm like, but then you're like, well, she's new. She has 3 years doing this. She's 4 years or whatever. I don't know how long, but yeah, I'm like, there's no reason why.
Well, and the thing about this too, like the older you get, the more you realize that you don't know what you thought you knew, so you're constantly learning things. And it just kind of flashed me back to when I was still pretty young and dumb. And I thought I was pretty cool because my dogs had obedience titles, Pitbull. And I was at a Pitbull show. Al Benuelos was my mentor at the time. I was at a Pitbull show, and one of the guys was having a little bit of a problem with his dog in the ring. Not ADBA, UKC, so it's a different style. And I'm very interested in the other dogs. And he's like, Leri, can you help me? I'm like, yeah, sure. This is so stupid of me, I always feel like if I can if somebody's struggling with a dog and I can put a collar on him, give him a little correction and I don't get bit, that's a damn good dog. Because how many dogs are going to take a correction from a stranger? And I try not to do that. But anyway, I put a prong on the dog and I had the leash and I put another leash on the slip collar. And Al said to me, smart, Leri. And I said, yeah? He's like, yeah, in case he redirects. Well, I wasn't thinking about redirecting.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the prong maybe popping. But so I learned something there. I'm like, oh, damn, that dog could redirect on me.
Yeah.
So,
I'll say one story before we get started. You remember Tex had a Corso. What was his Corso's name?
Cello.
Cello. And I thought I was a shit already, right? I'm like 3 years in. I'm like 3 years into this game, 4 years, and Larry's helping him, and I'm seeing some stuff, and I'm like, let me try to help Leri. Like, let me see, can I take him? And then he's like, yeah, go. So I take the dog, and like we're here, and like the dog's cool. Like, I'm giving her food and everything. As soon as I like try to lure her away and back her away from here, she looks back at him. Whack! She went for my hand and shit, and to go back to the owner, right? And I'm like, you like, why didn't the fuck you tell me? He's like, I didn't know that was gonna happen. I was like, damn, motherfucker.
Oh,
right?
he should have known that was going to happen.
But it was good. It was good for me because I was
Yeah.
like, nah, bro, don't be doing that shit just because you think you know what you're doing. And that's just what happens, you know?
Even like the dogs here. In fact, we were out in the parking lot when we first arrived, and a couple dogs out there, and we were chatting a little bit. And I used to be one of those, hey, buddy, you know, and I don't do that anymore. Like, if the dog comes up to me and smells, but I'm still ready to be move my hand out of there if I need to, because I've never been bit bad, but I have been I've been snapped at, and in fact, I hate to admit this, but the 2 bites that I had were this year in evaluations. With bulldogs, unfortunately. And the thing was, I knew that the dogs had a history, but they approached me with, so, hey, my best friend, where you been? And I was like, oh, damn, you know, he's down with me. I like that. They know I'm a pit bull person. And boom.
Nah, yesterday with Royal here, I know I could see, and I'm like, all right, I could see him kind of like, he's like looking at me now. Like, he's not focused. But she's like, oh, yeah, he went after it. And I'm just like, oh, thanks for telling me, you know, like, yes.
Well, he doesn't like when people when like someone
Yeah, but you didn't tell me. After.
I think he already had the leash,
After he's
but
fucking looking at
at
me like
least
this.
she gave you that.
You know, but what I'm saying is, like, those are the things. Yeah.
dog, you just let him know he's gonna stop. You gotta talk the shit out of him.
Nah, bro, you're tripping. So, like, I'm just saying, like, you know, you have to, like, make sure you let people be aware, like, hey, this is what happened last time. I mean, and obviously, like, you didn't have to tell me. Like, I kind of see it, and I knew that if I'm a little, like, unfair to him, that, like, why not? Fuck it, bro. Like, if I'm being unfair, like, let me know. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it'll
that
make
goes
me
for
realize.
anybody or any of the dogs. Like, anytime, like, even if you go to work with somebody else, and if you know your dog can get a little funny with other people, it's good to give them a warning. The dog he mentioned earlier, Cello, and kind of going after him, she was like that. In fact, when she did her temperament test, the judge puts hands on the dog for the CSAU, and it was Dominique Patone who was doing it.
He was awesome.
And God rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
But I texted, but I said to Dominique, she's funny, you know, watch her. And he pressed her even harder after I said that. And she's going, and I'm like, oh, damn. And she passed.
Yeah.
And I said,
He liked it.
I said, you still let her pass? He goes, the only time they're not going to pass is if they bite me. I said, have you ever been bit? And he says, nope. But I've had this before. I'm like, more power to you, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely important to tell your decoys if they went after a hand, you know,
Yeah.
your crotch or whatever.
Yeah, and when we're talking about
Everybody outside of you and your dog is decoy?
no,
Yeah.
no, and that's
Chris doesn't like people. He's like,
that's also important too. Like when you're at a training field, because like at our field when we train, or even inside here, like everybody's got a camera now, so we all want to be up there in the action. And I know in the beginning with both of my current dogs, like if Anna would be out there with the big Lans or Roel, my dog would be like looking at that, like, you know, what the hell. And most of the time, I'll go out with the dogs I know are clean and very focused, but that's only from observing them over a long period of time. And usually, Oscar or Shane or whoever is going to say, you know, stay back a little bit, you know, for this one. So it's good, it's safe to give people fair warning,
And
please.
luckily, cameraman never dies.
all right.
rock and roll.
Anything? Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? No? All right, we're going to break. Oh, go ahead.
I have something. So I know Jeanette shepherd. I'm a shepherd girl through and through. Part of what I saw yesterday is not just her turn on, but also genetically, shepherds are prone to anxiety as well, which adds to that.
Yeah, there was a little bit of anxious energy there.
Like, why did it come on?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there was a little bit of anxious. I think it's a mix of all that put together. for
Well,
sure.
With something like that, even teaching the subtle, you feel will help in that anxiety because you're rewriting that brain. to
1000%.
calm.
Yeah, 1000%.
So just real quick before we get started, because I know we didn't want to talk too much today. My dog in particular, as a puppy, before I even started putting any type of pressure in the training, when she'd be on a down, she'd start eating grass. And what do we think of when the dogs are eating grass? Stress, right? But I wasn't giving her any stress, but just her being out there. And a friend of mine, Noelle, says, you know, a lot of dogs that come into our daycare, 'cause she has hundreds of dogs in and out, she says they'll do similar behaviors that we think are stress behaviors, but it's excitement.
Displaced behaviors. Yeah.
Yes.
They just,
So when I started seeing that, in fact, I had gone to Kelly, and she had the same thing. She's like, put her on a place so she can't do that, and then give her a scatter on her place, you know, every now and then. And that, I was really proud of her going to her little place yesterday and just being there. That's huge for her. That's really big for her. So
I've seen that with Gallardo. He has he had a little female, and as soon as she saw the decoy, she started going for the grass, and it was like a little bit of
Displacement.
stress or whatever, and then like she doesn't know how to deal with it, so they just start going
Yeah,
to that,
yeah.
So and the same thing I said, hey bro, we got to work her where there's no grass, like on the
grass.
cement, That's just what we do.
Then
but
she
yeah,
can break her teeth
But yeah, there's
instead.
definitely
Yeah.
Definitely things to look after.
Yeah.
But all right,
Cool.
no questions. All right,
All right,
we're gonna take
who's
a
up
quick break
first?
and then we'll get started.
Who's ever first can go